The sun cast long shadows across the living room as I sat on the worn-out couch, surrounded by the warm memories of our family. Photographs adorned the walls, capturing moments of laughter and love. My brother Brian and his wife Anna were perched uneasily on the opposite side of the room, their faces etched with anxiety. Brian cleared his throat, breaking the silence that had settled between us. "Listen," he began, his voice trembling. "We need to talk to you about something important." Anna, who was clutching a tissue, nodded in agreement. Her eyes, usually vibrant and full of hope, were now clouded with worry. I couldn't help but feel a knot tighten in my chest, sensing the gravity of the impending conversation. I leaned forward, trying to mask my own anxiety. "Of course, you can talk to me about anything. What's on your minds?" Brian hesitated, his gaze falling to the floor as if searching for the right words. "Anna and I have been trying to have a child for years, you know that," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my heart aching for them. Anna had faced numerous medical issues, and the dream of starting a family had been elusive for them. Anna chimed in, her voice quivering. "We've explored every possible avenue, and it all led us to one option, IVF, but our insurance won't cover it, and we've had trouble getting a loan because of our credit history." My mind began to piece together the puzzle. IVF was not only emotionally taxing, but also financially burdensome, and it seemed they had hit a dead end. "I'm so sorry to hear that," I replied sincerely. Brian looked up, his eyes filled with desperation. "That's why we're here," he said. "We need your help. We need you to take out a loan for us, $15,000, to cover the IVF treatment." His words hung in the air, heavy with expectation. I felt the weight of their request pressing down on me, and a swirl of emotions overcame me. The love I had for my brother and sister-in-law warred with the practicality of such a substantial loan. How could I possibly make such a monumental decision? I took a deep breath, looking at them both. "I understand how important this is for you, but this is a significant financial commitment," I said gently. "I need some time to think about it." Anna wiped away a tear and nodded, her gratitude evident. "Thank you for even considering it. We're just running out of options." As they left my home that evening, the room felt emptier than ever before, and the burden of their desperate plea weighed heavily on my shoulders. Days turned into weeks as I grappled with Brian and Anna's request. It was an emotional roller coaster, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I held the power to change their lives forever. I knew the decision had to be made, and my heart was tugged in two directions. One evening, Brian and Anna came over for dinner. The tension in the air was palpable as we sat around the dining table, the aroma of homemade lasagna filling the room. Anna couldn't contain her anxiety any longer. "Have you thought about our request?" she asked, her eyes locked onto mine. I nodded, my voice steady. "I have, but it's a significant amount, and I'm concerned about the risks involved. What if it doesn't work out? What if I can't pay it back?" Brian reached for my hand across the table, his eyes filled with hope and desperation. "I promise you, we will do everything in our power to make this work. We'll find a way to pay it back, even if it takes years. We want this more than anything, and we won't let you down." I could see the sincerity in his eyes, and I wanted to believe him. But doubt still lingered in my mind. "I need more than just words," I replied, my voice tinged with uncertainty. Anna joined in, her voice cracking with emotion. "We're willing to put everything in writing, a legal agreement to ensure you're protected. We don't want to jeopardize our relationship with you, but we're running out of options." I sighed, torn between my love for them and my fear of the financial repercussions. "Let me think about it a little longer," I said, my voice softening. "I want to make sure I'm making the right decision, not just for you, but for me as well." They nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As they left that night, the promise hung in the air, unspoken but deeply felt. It was a promise that would shape the course of our lives, and I needed to decide whether I could trust them enough to take such a monumental step. In the days that followed our heartfelt conversation, I couldn't escape the weight of the decision looming over me. Brian and Anna had been persistent in their plea. but I needed to assess the risks involved thoroughly. One evening, my best friend Sarah visited me. We sat in my cozy living room, sipping on cups of steaming tea as I shared the dilemma that had been consuming my thoughts. Sarah furrowed her brows, concern etched on her face. "That's a significant amount, and it's not just about the money. You're taking on a huge responsibility here. Are you sure you want to do this?" I sighed, the uncertainty gnawing at me. "I want to help them, Sarah, but what if it doesn't work? What if I'm stuck with this debt for years and it strains our relationship?" Sarah leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "You need to protect yourself. If you decide to do this, make sure everything is in writing and consult a lawyer. You can't rely solely on trust in a situation like this." Her words resonated with me, and I knew she was right. But doubt still lingered. I just wish I had a crystal ball to see the future, to know if this is the right choice. A few days later, Brian and Anna came over again, their faces filled with hope and anxiety. We gathered in the same room where we had discussed their plea, and they could sense my hesitation. Brian spoke up, his voice earnest. "We understand your concerns, and we appreciate your willingness to consider this. We're willing to sign any legal agreements you want, and we'll make sure to repay every penny." Anna added, her eyes welling up with tears. "We can't thank you enough for even considering this, and we promise we'll do everything in our power to make it work." Their sincerity was undeniable, and I could feel their desperation. I nodded slowly, my heart heavy but determined. "Okay, let's explore the legalities of this. If we can draft an airtight agreement that protects both parties, I'm willing to take the risk." Relief washed over their faces, and we spent the evening discussing the terms and conditions of the loan, outlining every detail to ensure clarity and fairness. It was a step toward finding a compromise between love and financial responsibility, but I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and uncertainties. As the days turned into weeks, my life became a whirlwind of phone calls with lawyers, financial consultations, and sleepless nights. The weight of the decision I was about to make pressed heavily on my shoulders. One evening, I invited my mother over to discuss the situation. She arrived with her usual air of wisdom and warmth, and we settled in my living room. I poured her a cup of tea and hesitated for a moment before broaching the subject that had been haunting me. "Mom, I need your advice. Brian and Anna have asked me for a significant loan for their IVF treatment. I want to help them, but I'm afraid it might not be the right decision." My mother gazed at me, her eyes filled with understanding. "Darling, I know your heart is in the right place, but you must think about your own future and well-being. Are you prepared for the potential risks and consequences?" I nodded slowly, the gravity of the situation settling in. "I've been considering that, Mom. It's just so hard. They're my family, and I want to support them, but this is a massive financial commitment." My mother reached out and placed a reassuring hand on mine. "Remember that you can help them in many ways, not just financially. Offer emotional support, be there for them, but don't jeopardize your own financial stability. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to make a difficult decision for the long term." Her words echoed in my mind as I continued to navigate the legal complexities of the loan agreement with Brian and Anna. The contract had been drafted, and we were on the cusp of signing it. One evening, Brian and Anna visited my home, their faces etched with anticipation. We gathered around the coffee table, where the loan agreement lay, waiting for our signatures. Brian turned to me, his voice tinged with gratitude and anxiety. "We can't thank you enough for doing this, for taking this risk with us. We promise we'll make it work, no matter what." Anna nodded fervently, her eyes filled with determination. "We've been dreaming of having a family for so long, and you're making it possible. We won't let you down." I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision heavier than ever. "I trust you both, and I believe in your love for each other and your future family. Let's sign this agreement together." With trembling hands, we signed the document, sealing the pact that would either bring us closer together or test the limits of our family bonds. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. The days that followed the signing of the loan agreement were filled with a strange mix of hope and anxiety. Brian and Anna began their IVF treatments, and our family gatherings were marked by hushed conversations about follicle counts and hormone injections. One evening, my sister-in-law Anna called me, her voice quivering with emotion. "I just got back from another doctor's appointment," she said, her words laden with disappointment. "The treatments are not progressing as we hoped. It's taking a toll on both of us." I could hear the vulnerability in her voice, and my heart ached for her. "Anna, I know it's tough, but remember, it's still early in the process. Miracles can happen. Stay strong, both of you." But as the weeks turned into months, and the IVF treatments continued to yield no positive results, the strain on Brian and Anna's relationship became apparent. Their once unbreakable bond was beginning to show signs of wear and tear. One evening, Brian reached out to me, his voice laden with frustration. "I never expected this journey to be so hard," he admitted, his eyes filled with exhaustion. "Anna and I have been arguing a lot lately, and it's taking a toll on us. We thought this would bring us closer, but it's pushing us apart." I tried to offer words of comfort. "Brian, it's natural for such a challenging journey to put stress on any relationship. Remember why you started this journey together in the first place. Lean on each other for support." But as the IVF treatments continued to drain their savings, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The burden of the loan was beginning to cast a shadow over our family gatherings, and my once close relationship with Brian and Anna was becoming strained. One evening, at a family dinner, the tension finally reached its breaking point. Anna burst into tears, her voice shaking as she turned to me. "We're in so deep, and there's no guarantee that this will work. We've put everything on the line for this dream, and I'm scared." Brian put his arm around her, his expression filled with guilt. "I feel responsible for all of this, for putting you in this position. I don't know how we'll ever repay you if this doesn't work out." I watched as the rest of the family exchanged concerned glances. The weight of our shared decision was now palpable, and the cracks in our once solid foundation were impossible to ignore. As I tried to offer words of reassurance, I couldn't help but wonder if my initial reluctance had been justified. The road ahead seemed uncertain, and I questioned whether the dream of starting a family was worth the cost of our family's unity. As the strain of the IVF treatments continued to mount, our family found itself navigating treacherous waters. The burden of the loan weighed heavily on my mind, and the tension among us was palpable. But amidst the turmoil, something unexpected began to emerge, a newfound sense of unity and support. One evening, my mother, a beacon of wisdom in our family, called for a family meeting. She gathered us all in her cozy living room, where the warm glow of her antique lamps cast a comforting ambience. "Family," she began, her voice steady and filled with compassion. "I see the toll this journey has taken on all of us, especially Brian and Anna. But we made a choice as a family, and we must stand by it, no matter the outcome." My sister-in-law, Anna, wiped away a tear and nodded in agreement. "Mom's right," she said, her voice trembling. "I know this has been tough on everyone, but we can't let it tear us apart." Brian chimed in, his eyes reflecting gratitude. "We appreciate your support, more than words can express. Knowing that you're all behind us means the world." My mother's words seemed to have a soothing effect on our fractured family. We began to rally around Brian and Anna, offering not just financial support, but emotional support as well. Our gatherings shifted from being filled with strained conversations to becoming a safe space for sharing fears, hopes, and dreams. One sunny afternoon, my niece, Emily, approached me, her eyes brimming with sincerity. "Aunt Emma, I know this has been really hard for you, and I wanted to say thank you for helping Mom and Dad." I knelt down to her eye level and smiled. "Emily, family is there for each other through thick and thin. I might have had doubts in the beginning, but seeing how much they mean to all of us makes it worth it." Our family had transformed into a circle of unwavering support, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The financial burden was still a reality, but it was no longer the sole focus of our interactions. Instead, our gatherings were filled with laughter, tears, and a shared sense of hope. As the IVF treatments continued, we couldn't predict the outcome, but we knew one thing for certain. We were in it together, as a family, bound by love and the desire to see Brian and Anna's dream of having children come true. The tension in our family reached a boiling point as the weight of the loan and the uncertainty of IVF treatments pressed down on us. What had once been a supportive circle was now cracking at the seams, threatening to shatter the bonds that held us together. One evening, my brother Brian and I sat on the porch, the cool breeze doing little to alleviate the heat of our argument. "You need to understand, sis," Brian said, his frustration evident in his voice. "This is our last chance. If we don't go through with the IVF, we may never have children." I sighed, feeling the weight of his words. "I get that, Brian, but it's not just about the money. It's about the uncertainty. What if it doesn't work? What if we're stuck with this loan and no baby?" Brian's shoulders slumped, and his voice softened. "I know it's a risk, but Anna and I are willing to take it. We need your help." As the days passed, my reluctance to take on the loan only deepened. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being asked to shoulder an immense burden, one that might never yield the desired outcome. One evening, during a family dinner that had grown uncomfortably quiet, my mother spoke up. "We're drifting apart," she said, her eyes filled with sadness. "This loan has strained our relationships, and I fear it's tearing our family apart." Anna nodded, her voice trembling. "I never wanted this to come between us. I just want a chance at being a mother." The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words, regrets, and lingering resentments. Our family, once so close-knit, now felt fractured beyond repair. Then came the breaking point. My sister-in-law, Lauren, confronted me in the kitchen, her frustration evident. "Why are you making this so difficult, Emma? Brian and Anna are suffering, and you're the only one who can help." I took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. "Lauren, it's not that I don't want to help, but I have doubts. What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm left with a mountain of debt?" Lauren's face reddened, and her voice grew sharp. "You're selfish, you know that? This is about family, about being there when it matters most." As the days turned into weeks, the rift within our family deepened. I felt like a pariah, isolated by my refusal to take on the loan. The strain had reached a breaking point, and I feared that the bridges we had built over a lifetime were now burned, leaving only smoldering embers of what once was. The aftermath of the family conflict left us all emotionally drained and wounded. It was a period of reflection, healing, and making choices about how to move forward. One morning, I found myself sitting in my empty living room, staring at the space where the IVF loan request had torn through the fabric of our family. My phone buzzed, and it was a message from Brian. "I know things got really ugly, and I'm sorry for putting you in that position. We'll find another way. Family is too important to lose." Tears welled up in my eyes as I read his message. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that perhaps our family could mend the broken bonds. I replied, "I love you, Brian. We'll figure this out together." Over the next few weeks, my brother and I met regularly to discuss alternative solutions. We explored different financing options, considered the possibility of fundraising within our extended family, and even researched support groups for couples facing infertility. One evening, as we sat in my living room surrounded by research papers and financial documents, Brian let out a deep sigh. "I wish I could go back and change how we approach this whole thing. I shouldn't have put all that pressure on you." I nodded, acknowledging his words. "We all make mistakes, Brian. The important thing is that we're working through this together." As we continued to explore different avenues, our family slowly began to heal. My mother, always the peacemaker, organized a family gathering at her home. It was an opportunity for all of us to come together, put the past behind us, and focus on rebuilding the bonds that had been strained. During the gathering, Anna approached me with a warm smile. "I hope you can forgive us for the way we handled this, Emma. We were desperate and didn't think things through." I placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling a sense of forgiveness and understanding wash over me. "I understand, Anna. Let's leave the past behind and move forward as a family." The road to recovery was a long one, but we were determined to rebuild what had been broken. It wasn't just about finding a solution to the IVF funding. It was about rediscovering the love, trust, and support that had always defined our family. As I looked around at the faces of my loved ones, I knew that we were on the path to healing. The wounds of the past were slowly fading, replaced by the hope of a brighter future. A future where family came first, no matter the challenges we faced.